Let's talk about a force so incredibly powerful that it can literally reshape continents in, well, the blink of a geological eye. And no, I'm not talking about volcanoes or earthquakes. I'm talking about water. But forget everything you know about slow, patient erosion. This is water at its most violent. Ancient, colossal megafloods that tore scars into our planet that you can still see plain as day.
You know, for the longest time, the bedrock of geology was this idea that everything happens slowly, gradually over millions and millions of years. But what if that's not the whole story? I mean, what kind of force out there can blast through solid rock, carving out enormous canyons not over eons, but in just a handful of days?
And what if that very same force was powerful enough to just slice a land ridge in half, turning a peninsula into an island for good? This is the story of water completely unleashed. It's a story that proves our planet's history isn't just about gradual, gentle change. It's also written in moments of pure, unimaginable catastrophe.
So our story kicks off in Washington state, in this totally bizarre landscape called the Channeled Scablands. And honestly, it looks like something you'd find on Mars. This huge, gouged-out terrain that for decades just completely stumped any conventional explanation.
And when you look closer at the features here, I mean, the scale is just off the charts. We're talking about a scoured-out landscape bigger than some countries, dry waterfalls that make Niagara look small, ripples in the solid earth as big as office buildings, and deep, deep canyons cut straight into hard bedrock. A normal river, even over millions of years? No way! It couldn't do this. So the question was, what did? Well, back in the 1920s, this geologist named J. Harlan Bretz came along with an idea that was basically geological heresy at the time. He stood up and said the Scablands weren't formed slowly at all. He argued they were violently ripped into existence by one single monstrous flood when a giant ice dam holding back an ancient lake just collapsed.
The sheer amount of water he was talking about it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Modern estimates figure that this flood unleashed 2,500 cubic kilometers of water from what we now call glacial Lake Missoula.
Okay, to try and put that into perspective, picture the entire volume of Lake Ontario. Now imagine all of it being unleashed at once, a wall of water and ice moving at over 100 kilometers an hour. That is the kind of torrent that just strips the land right down to the bone, creating the Channeled Scablands in what was for geology a single afternoon.
And here's the kicker. The Missoula flood, as mind-blowing as it was not a one-off event. It turns out this kind of cataclysm was actually a signature feature of the end of the last ice age, and it was happening all over the warming world.
The process even has a name, a jökulhlaup, which is an Icelandic term for a glacial lake outburst flood, and it follows this really simple but terrifying cycle. First, a glacier moves and blocks a river, acting like a dam. Then, a huge lake fills up behind it. And finally, that ice dam gets unstable, it weakens and, boom, catastrophic failure.
And you can see the evidence for these things all over the globe. In Asia's Altai Mountains, you find these giant ripple marks that are almost a kilometer from crest to crest. Here in North America, the Bonneville flood drained a lake that was bigger than Lake Michigan is today, and it carved out the Snake River Canyon. And over in Europe, the Baltic Ice Lake let go of nearly 3 times the water of the Missoula flood. Just incredible.
But these megafloods didn't just carve up local landscapes. This is where it gets really wild. In some cases, they permanently redrew the map of the world.
Take the English Channel, for instance. About 450,000 years ago, Britain wasn't an island. It was actually connected to Europe by this big chalk ridge. But then a massive glacial lake up north broke its banks. A torrent of water just blasted through that ridge, carved out the channel, and turned Britain into an island, forever.
But of all the ancient megafloods we know about, one of them really stands out as maybe the most spectacular of all time. It happened about 5.3 million years ago, and scientists have described it as a planetary waterfall.
So, get this. For thousands of years, the Mediterranean Sea was basically a hot, dry desert of salt. Its connection to the Atlantic had been cut off. But then, the natural dam at the Straits of Gibraltar broke. The Atlantic Ocean just came pouring through in a flood 1,000 times bigger than the Amazon River. It refilled the entire sea, with water levels rising by as much as 10 meters every single day.
Now, these are just amazing, incredible stories from our planet's deep past. But they are definitely not just history lessons. So why does studying these ancient events matter so much to us right here, right now?
because they show us just how fast and how dramatically Earth's entire system can be thrown completely out of whack. Take Lake Agassiz, for example. It was a glacial lake that once covered a huge chunk of North America. When it finally drained into the North Atlantic about 8,200 years ago, that one massive pulse of cold, fresh water was enough to mess with ocean currents and trigger a sudden global cooling event that lasted for centuries.
And that right there is the key connection to our world today. Geologists are now using these ancient floods as direct models, or analogs, for what could happen as our modern ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica continue to melt. The amount of fresh water locked up there is just immense. The physics haven't changed, and these ancient events are basically a flashing warning sign for our own future.
You know, the scars from these ancient floods are this powerful reminder that our planet isn't some static, unchanging rock, that its history is full of these moments of extreme, incredibly rapid change. The evidence is written right there in the landscape, a memory of a much more violent world. And it leaves us with one pretty crucial question. What new memories are we in the process of creating right now?